So in this video, we're going to talk about fractions again, okay? And with fractions on this one, we're going to talk about multiplication with fractions. So multiplication. So if you have a over b and c over d that are both elements in a set of rational numbers, meaning they're both fractions such that b and d cannot equal 0, if you have a over b times c over d, this is going to equal to ac over bd. So you just multiply straight across, okay? Example of this, we'll do two examples, okay? We have 1/2 times 1/4. If we multiply straight across, this becomes 1 times 1 over 2 times 4, which becomes 1 over 8. Another way to look at this visually is I'm now going to take 1/2, right? So I've got 1/2. So I've got a value of 1 length, so 1 unit, and I have 1/2 of it. So this is 1/2, this is 1/2. If I add them together, I get 1, okay? Well, now what I'm doing is I'm taking that 1/2 and I'm dividing it up into 4 more pieces. So I still got the same rectangle, and instead of 1/2, I now have 4 pieces in the first part. So 1, 2, 4. So I make that 1/2 become 1/8 when I divide that by 4 or multiply it by 1/4. Now notice here you've got this is 1/8, that is 1/8, that is 1/8, that is 1/8, and then this unit right here is still 1/2. Okay, so I took that 1/8 and I divided it up into, change that to red, I've got 1 piece, second piece, third piece, 4 pieces. Well, 4/8 is the same thing as 1/2. So I took that 1/2 and I divided it up into 4 pieces by multiplying it by a fraction. Okay, remember, multiplying by a fraction is the same thing as a division by 4. Okay, and we'll talk more about this because this thing right here, the way this is the same thing as 1/2 divided by 4, which is a complex fraction. In other words, you have to multiply by the reciprocal of the denominator, 4, and so you're still left with 1/2 multiplied by the reciprocal of 4, which is the flipped version of 4 over 1. So 1/4. So really, I'm taking 1/2 and I'm dividing it up into 4 pieces. That's what I did right here. I still get the value of 1/2 if I add them up. So the sum of all the 1/8s is actually equal to 1/2. So 1/2 plus 1/2 is still 1 unit in length. So when you multiply fractions together, you're really dividing the two. You're dividing the first fraction by the second. Okay? So that's visually what happens. This is the numeric. This is visually what happens, right? And this is numerically what happens. But really, all you're doing is you're taking this and you're taking the original one and you're dividing it by a number. When you multiply fractions together, it's the same thing. So I hope this helps.